All right. I'd like to talk about this next project in about 4 different ways. And I'm going to break it down, and you might take some notes if you would. The first will be about the site. The second is about the program. The third is sort of what we're doing in terms of the architecture, the space, the determinants. And the fourth is this issue of nature, if we call it that, quote, in the city. So I'm going to start with the site. Jen has for you, and she'll be here, a copy of the section at 16th scale of the site, this photo montage of the site, a 16th scale plan, and an 8th scale plan. She should have, when she arrives, copies of everything of this. The site is no stranger to you. You do know it, some of you intimately. Well, here and certainly these 2 guys, and many of them, as you know, looking into it. The site is roughly an area that is like this. And is a interesting site. I won't call it difficult, but it's an interesting site. And there are some ways of describing it. For the purposes of this project, we are considering it to be completely flat. It's not entirely flat, but it's close enough for being flat. There is a driveway that goes down to a garage here that we're considering isn't there. It shouldn't have been there in the first place. Actually, it's illegal. But we're considering it's not there. There is a, and you can see on here, called a lane, or lands court, which I probably would guess originally there was houses like this here, and then houses like this here, and the tunnel came along and blasted everything away, because they probably had to dig underneath this to do this, because this is where I think the tunnel goes down. So that's why it's like this. But for the purpose of our project, this is part of our site, and this is also part of our site. Therefore, we don't worry about cars going back through here. They don't do it now. This is parking. This is nothing, and this is playground. And we're just going to forget about the playground for the time being. I know, Felix, that you may not like that. But you can move it over to here, which is a nice playground space, or incorporate it into your...
So we keep the parking?
So that's the first point, is that it's flat. And the right-of-ways and the driveways you can keep. I mean, you ignore them. There are, however, some nice trees that you have to think about. I think 2, but, oh, wait a minute. Ooh, they don't look very nice on this. Oh, no, here they are. Yeah, 2. There's one here, didn't there? Oh, this little building you don't worry about either. It's not on here. There's a little building here. But forget that. Whenever in architecture you destroy a tree, think about it very seriously. You can now transplant trees, but they're expensive. These are not mature trees by any means, but they have had a life of probably 25 years. That doesn't mean you can't take them or relocate them, but think about it before you do. I have the following criteria for you: that this wall, which has windows on it, you have to keep those windows, and therefore somehow you got to get light into these guys. However, this one, which has windows on it, you don't have to keep, because in the North End vocabulary, it's on the corner, but most of the time it does not have windows because it's a bearing wall. This one may not have been because of the lane. But we can assume that there's no windows here. You are welcome to build then up against this whoops, up against this, but not against this. And of course, you're welcome to build up against the ventilator building in any way you see fit, as we've already done.
Can you poke through the...
Well, this class is a good poke-through class. You know, there's been a lot of poking that's been going on here. Everybody's, 3 or 4 have been poking. Yes, you can poke, but I don't think you can poke in this territory.
Just start the day.
Mm-hmm. Are we taking the previous project into account? I'm assuming that all of these are there.
Well, in theory, yes, this is your community. You're all living here now, and that relates to the program. And you should be thinking about that, but you may have a discussion with her if you feel it's important. And there's one here that you need to have a discussion with you.
I just have like a little elevator shaft
Mm-hmm.
right up to my house.
Well, in all these cases, you're getting into your house in some way, which we're not worrying about, but it's not on the site, except for her. So she may have to modify it slightly. So, got it so far? With me? Again, just to put it in perspective, this is at 16th, this is at 8th. We're going to start working at 16th. Then we'll move to 8th and quarter and full size and so on. Well, we may. I'm hoping that we're going to build a piece of this at full size, not the whole thing. Now there's another issue that I want to talk about, which is what I call the ordinary and the extraordinary. And that is that there's an ordinary environment coming down this street. Boom, 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 boom. And then there's something that you might call extraordinary, but not very nice, the ventilator tower. And in the nature of this design, I'd like to have you pay attention to the ordinary as it relates to this, if you so choose to work here, which does not mean fake colonial, whatever this is, by any means, but it means being compatible to it. And then you might move into something that's more unusual, extraordinary. So we're going from the ordinary on this side to the extraordinary. That makes sense? The site has one more interesting and difficult issue. What is it? Yes, it does have that too, and that's an interesting issue. But there's another one.
Is it on a grade?
Sorry?
Is it on a grade?
No, it's flat. We're making it flat.
Space?
Huh?
Space?
Well, it's a bunch of dead spaces, and that's our point of taking it, to make life to it. What else about the site?
What a street that you
Let's forget about this and forget about this.
The height of it?
What about the height?
Well, it's sort of, it's like the quarry in some ways, because that's like the water part of it, or the lower part of it.
Yeah.
Everything else is just tiny.
Yeah, and?
Right.
Huh? Come on, come on.
The things blocking the southern air,
Huh.
so you don't have a lot of light.
Yeah. It's not a nice site. I mean, the sun is in the, let's do it. The sun in the winter is rising somewhere in here. I think it might get a little light. No, not at rise, but maybe at noon it's going to get some light. And then it's coming around and setting probably about here. It might get a little light on here. On the summer, it's better. It's rising over here and probably gets some light. And maybe gets some light all day. But clearly these guys, being so tall, are casting shadows. Most sites that you get in architectural school are south-facing with a beautiful view. That's not the case here. This is north-facing with a great view because we're seeing Sarah's wonderful building across the street. But it's different. So light is an extreme important issue. How we bounce light around, how we get sunlight down into it. And that makes this site unique. You have to think about that. I want you to go back to the site and look at the site now from the eyes of this project, which I'm going to give you, and of course you're aware of it. One of the things that did not come out in the last project, which you might think about, is views from this site that you might see. Custom House Tower, down the street, etc. Next question, what are we going to do with it? This is the most important part, I think. We are going to make and design a place here that will bring together you guys in your community in the sky, North Enders who are living here, tourists, and anyone else you might think of, into a meeting place, which used to be called a community center, which of course is the kiss of death to making anything community. If you ever label it community center, nobody will go there. So we're not making, in the typical sense, a community center, but we are making a place for people to come together. In our age, in this age, you guys could sit here all day long in your computer and do something, but there may be a question about the quality of life that you have that may want you to get out for some reason, for work or for whatever. We are making that place of bringing together not only you guys, but also North Enders, because life is about meeting other people, and architecture is about bringing people together. So we're making a coming together space. That's our program, basically. And that's up to you to decide. To be a good architect is important, to be a good designer. But to be a good programmer, to think about the spirit of what the architecture is going to be, is a real genius. And that's what I'm asking you guys to be. I'm asking you to be very creative in thinking about what brings people together and then design the most beautiful place for it. I believe very much in this way of working, because otherwise I think you come out to be technocrats in the way that you are just hired architects and do what somebody tells you, and I believe that the architecture profession can offer more than that. You're not engineers. You're not designing just a bridge to stay up. You're designing life, or an echo of life. So in this case, what is it that the echo is? The program, which I'll hand out in a second, is about 6,000 square feet of stuff, which is more than, that's about, well, you all cheated, but that's about 6 of these, right? 5 of these, or it should be. So somehow you're going to get 6,000, roughly 6,000, it can be more. There should be in that program, no matter what you're doing, some space in there where a good number of people can meet together, a meeting place. I don't know what that is. Is that an exhibition hall for art? Is that a movie theater? Is that an ice skating rink? I don't know what it is. That's up to you to think about. There should be some spaces in here that are medium size where people might come together to have meetings, or daycare, or elder care. And there should be some small spaces in here where you might work. Maybe you work all day on your computer and virtual world, but this is your crew life is making furniture. And we may be shifting in our ways of thinking about work and life as it's been before. So maybe you make furniture there and you sell it on your computer in your house. I don't know. That's up to you. So there might be workspaces there. The point is there's some small, there's some medium size, and there's one big one. As I said before, all good architecture has a vertical connection and a horizontal connection of space. This building should have that, a vertical and a horizontal. So therefore, space in some way should be flowing through the building, vertically and horizontally. Some part of the building, but not all, should get up to be a companion to these other buildings, which is 3 stories or so. But the whole thing doesn't have to do that. Now, let me just put in parentheses, part of this project is to get you to think about three-dimensional programming and how you express that architecturally. Because for the most part, you've been doing it in your head, you're able to keep track of 1 or 2 or 3 stories, but now you can't. You're going to have to think three-dimensionally and work three-dimensionally. So the program is intended not to be horizontal suburb community center. Right? It's not that. About 2/3 of the site should be left open or left untouched, so that, which is in the last part of this, that wonderful experience that we had the very first day of going to the quarry of nature, call it nature, water, it wasn't nature, but it's okay. We, in some form, are bringing nature back into the city, which is badly needed in this part of this city. Nothing is staying this here, but I'm inviting you to think about what does it mean to bring nature back into the city for a place that's as dense as this, that they have one tree here and one here, and I don't know, I guess some here. No water anywhere in the, except for the fountain and the Paul Revere's wall. To my knowledge, no natural stone or no natural, so-called natural, grass in anywhere in the North End for a community, maybe privately. So what does that mean? You might bring water into this site, because it used to be water, by the way. This was a shoreline. You might bring trees into this site, but if you bring trees, do not do what architects do, which is what I call throwing darts at the drawing 10 minutes before it's due and placing trees. And then, you know, you put trees and then you put little benches on it and you call it open space and you think people are going to live happily ever after, and they're not. It's going to have to be more than that if you do trees or any kind of vegetation. It could be a way of using materials, stone from the quarry. I mean, maybe you go back to the quarry and get some quarry materials and bring it here and civilize it in some way, combine it with water and trees. That's up to you. Decide what that is. But when you're done with this and this, people no longer are going down the red line to see Paul Revere's house. They're going down a purple line to see your place because it's much better than anything that they've ever seen. So those people coming from Ohio, where I came from, could care less about Paul's place, but they really care about your place. Such as the little park in New York where there's a waterfall at the back, you know, I never know the name of it. You know the one? Yep. Wonderful little oasis in the middle of chaos, in my opinion. Those are special places. That's what you're making. A very special place. So that's the turn or the complete James Joyce cycle from the beginning of the quarry back to something like the quarry. You with me, guys? Well, I've already said that the ordinary and the extraordinary has to be combined somehow on the site. So you're not parking a spaceship in here, you know. That's not what you're doing. It's not a landing pad. Sorry. You thought I had forgotten, but I will remember it for 20 years. So you're not doing that. But you're also not imitating what's there. It's a bore. Don't do that. No, you guys, none of you guys did that in this. How can you make a billboard in there like that, which I'm not suggesting you did, but also relate? Oh, incredible problem. Beautiful idea. I mean, how to do that? I don't know. But that's your challenge. Finally, in my opinion, in any good building, it's the public space of paths and places, which I will talk about, the space between. The assignment, number 6, in the sequence of things, first for this, which is due next Tuesday. I'm going to read it. For this assignment, you are asked to think about what this building wants to be. I'm asking you again. What is the program that would satisfy your needs and bring people together in the community? How can we get people to come together? Again, I'm reiterating. What kind of spaces for work would you want and need? How can we design buildings in our present society being the society of technology, of computers, that can bring people together and address the issue of community? Because we still want to come together somehow. Yet the technology age is pushing us away from each other to a certain extent. What is the connection to nature? Which is also a basic need of us. How can nature be introduced into the city? These are all questions I'm asking you for the program. I say it would be a good time to revisit the site and understand more of the community. You might do this by being there at different times of the day, by talking with people who live there, or by understanding the history of the area, which you do understand to a certain extent, but more so. So you might go down today, go in the night, go in the weekend, with somebody. From your observations, ideas for the program and form should come. Got it? For next Tuesday, we're going to have a pin-up. The following should be done. 2 20 by 30 boards to include your attitude, quote, attitude, about the building, program uses, and sizes. I'm looking for you to produce montage boards again that express your idea about how we're going to come together on this site. I'm also asking you to make areas of colored paper to show the sizes of the program at the scale of 16th, which we're working at, which is this. That talks about the size of the building. Remember, this is a vertical building.
So that's on the boards?
That's on the boards. And I'm asking you sketches about how you might use the site. Include at 1/16 scale at least one general sketch plan, but more. I'm looking for more than one